on the recording button is official. We talked for 20 minutes before we started the show.
But we didn't talk about our topics, which is great. So everything's fresh. We're fresh.
We just bitched about work, mostly me. Melinda's saying, okay, it's all right, big fella. Tomorrow's another day.
It's okay.
Gosh, it's raining here. It's been so rainy the last couple of days.
Well, I mean, what's the story with the big, no?
Oh, those poor folks in Texas and Louisiana, they're going to get that.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm kind of lost track of that. So,
welcome to the show.
Yes.
My name's Tom Wise from rainy Tarpon Springs. It's about 7 o'clock here at night. So we usually generally do the show around noon, between noon and 3 and 4. We don't care.
Oh, we don't, you know what? We'll do it on our time.
Right.
It's about us. I'm Melinda McKinsey from Brooklyn, New York.
Yes.
And we sometimes when we do the night sessions, they're a little maybe sexier, or it's a different mode because it's early evening.
Unpacking some shit at night.
We are unpacking some shit at night. I like it.
So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I always am so curious to hear your topics because I can never tell based on the title what it really is.
I didn't do a good job coming up with misdirection topics.
Oh, that's okay.
How about, would you believe it? I'll leave that as a general thing. Would you believe it? Okay.
Yes.
That's one.
Yes.
And then we started a little conversation with Patrick the other day about the way that men present themselves on dating sites and how women present themselves on dating sites.
Yes.
I'd like to explore that.
Okay.
And then I had a woman on Facebook said she's bemoaning the fact that whatever happened to old-fashioned dating. I don't want to make this all dating and relationships, but
that's okay.
That's on my mind. And
yeah.
Yours?
I have Toot Your Own Horn. Dead Eyes. Wurst Therapy.
Oh, yeah, that's a callback. We didn't do that Wurst Therapy last time.
Yeah, that's okay. And then Sexy Talk and Tip of the Day.
Look, we used to have 9 topics each, but we know we never get to all of them. So
we never do.
Why bother?
Yeah.
Does anybody even care? I mean, I've never had any comments. I mean, there's only 23 people that watch the show, and we appreciate that. I'd like to know who those folks are. We know who 4 of them are.
Yeah.
I don't know who the other 16 are, maybe the other 50 or so. I mean, we've had as many as 90 downloads on one episode. I think I exposed myself or something. I forget.
Whatever it takes. You got to take it for the team.
Really? I felt badly about Kellyanne Conway. Did you watch that today or the other day, the announcement? I don't want to get political, but I just felt badly for her.
Because of the daughter and leaving and all that?
There's nothing worse than having troubles with your kids. No, you don't get into this parental game with the intention of having troubles with your kids. And there's nothing worse. I'm going to imagine that she quit because she just doesn't want to get any questions about that. It's embarrassing. I mean, it's horrible. It's horrific. I hope, I pray everything comes out all right.
Well, I do too, because here's the thing with kids and teenagers and stuff. It's tough in the regular world. It's tough. Kids are tough. Then you're in the public sector and everybody's watching everything you do. You've got moody teenagers. You've got this big political thing going on. Nobody's winning in that scenario.
Yeah, I know. It's hard.
It's rough. So I do feel badly. I'm sure there's a lot of strife at home now because now there's got to be a lot of anger about making choices and all of that. So
well, plus they were, the couple themselves were always at odds about the administration, and that's got to wear on the marriage too. Plus the kids and all that stuff. It's just all bad. So give us one of your fun topics. What about that worst thing again?
Okay, let's talk about Wurst Therapy. Wurst Therapy. Sometimes when I think of these topics, I get a little afraid because I'm like, oh, what if he picks it? What if I have to say it? And I think that's part of my.
It's not about a spreading sausage you put on a sandwich. I subscribe that you have 5 Wurst sandwiches: liver Wurst, pickled Wurst. That's my therapy.
I love therapy. I've gone many times in my life for different reasons to different people. I have a favorite therapist, but this is in a particular time in my life where I want to talk about when you go to get help from somewhere and the person that's supposed to help you is actually bad for you.
Oh.
Okay.
What do you pay for therapy, might I ask?
Yeah, it honestly varies. In this particular case, it was when I was going through my divorce. It was my ex-husband and I, and it was a Christian counselor.
Let me guess. May I guess first?
Yes.
$120 an hour.
I think it was closer to 200.
Wow, and that's way back when.
It was way back, like 9, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But at the time, it's like you got to put high value on it, right? So there are certain things I don't want to go cheap on,
Right.
and counseling would be one of them.
Toilet paper and counseling.
And so here's the quick version, because I could really drag this out. Basically, what occurred was we were having some marital issues. So he met us together, and then he met us separately. And then he said, "No, then I'll have you come back together, and I shall share my diagnosis." So when I was in the room alone, and I'm just like, and because you know me, I'm a sharer.
What?
And I'm just giving intimate details. I'm sharing all the grief, all this stuff. My ex-husband was a serial cheater. And so I told my thing. Now remember, this is a Christian counselor. So then my ex goes in, on another day. Then we come into, and on the day we're there, I'm like, this is going to be fantastic because we're really going to clear some stuff up.
Is it a man or a woman, did you say?
It's a man. It's a man. So he says, all right, I've listened to both sides, and I'm confident. I am just like, finally.
May I tell you, I think you're tipping your hand which way this is going to go. It's like you're not fulfilling the biblical directives.
That's right. Not only did he look at me and blame everything on me, because I was not, everything was my fault. He was cheating because I wasn't giving him enough power in the home. I wasn't, doing all.
You weren't giving him power in the home?
Because he's the leader of the house, and I should adhere to him on any decisions that I make because he is the leader of the family.
I get that philosophy, but how does that tie into cheating?
Because I was taking away his power. He felt bad about himself, so of course he was going to cheat because I made him feel bad about himself. Of course he's going to go somewhere else. It had nothing to do with lack of sex. It had to do with him saying I was making him feel bad. No, but it gets worse. So he's talking, and I don't know if you've ever had a point in your life. Have you ever had something really bad happen to you and you kind of black out for a second, or you stop hearing things because you're just...
Yeah. I can't imagine the time, but I can imagine maybe when I was getting bad news from something. It's like, your father just died in a town in Florida. And it's like,
yes. When you get bad news, you go into shock.
Right.
And this was a culmination of many years. And I thought finally, I was very truthful about a lot of things. And I thought, wow, that felt good. We'll clean up some stuff.
Was he drawing pictures or like taking notes when you were talking?
I'm sure he was drawing pictures, because wait till you hear what he said when we left. He was so unprofessional. He said, you have to let him, and whenever he wants sex, you have sex. You don't deny. He's the ruler, blah, blah, blah. And here was his resolution. It took 10 minutes. I'm spinning on myself. It took 10 minutes. He said, you need to go home right now.
Yeah.
Take off all your clothes.
Go on.
Get into bed. Pray together and let him be the man of the house. It'll all work out. Now, not only was that horrifying, and he did nothing wrong. It was all my fault for him cheating.
That's insane.
And then as we're standing up to leave, my ex-husband was like, oh, that's right. He was
Walk on the walk.
I'm looking around. As I stand up, this counselor, who is in Palm Harbor, Florida on US 19, looks at me and says, hey, you work at that HSN, don't you? Now, when he asked me what my career was, I never told him because I don't like people to know, and it was private. And I looked at him and I said, why? And he goes, well, I recognized you. I told my wife that you were a patient of mine. You're not allowed to do that. So when I was going through my divorce, I asked my attorney, can anything be done about this man? Because here's what I did. When I left that day, I was so enraged. Had I been anybody else, I would have been broken and maybe adhered to what he had said, right? Because he's a professional trying to fix my marriage. I was so enraged. I went to a friend's house who happened to also be a therapist, but I was trying to keep that separate. And I told her my story and I said, am I crazy? Because I feel like that was wrong on every level. And she said, run as fast as you can. That was crazy. My attorney told me it's too hard to sue therapists because the way that it works, it'd be a character assassination. And she said, they're protected, you're not, you would spend a lot of money. Because I was like, people need to know, no one should go to this therapist. And she's like, he's been around for a while. She said, I'm telling you, it's not worth your money or your time.
That's amazing.
Now, ever.
Oh, no kidding. Why choose a Christian therapist?
Well, because at the time in our marriage, we were very involved in the church. And so, we were trying to follow those guidelines of, what would the church do? What would the church say? And knowing that there was cheating involved, I was feeling like, well, that's pretty clear.
Yeah. Deals off. We're deals off. Now, had you been abiding by church doctrine up to that point?
Pretty much, yes. Yes.
I've got a buddy of mine, you know, who's very religious, and they do run the household with, he's in charge, and, she's submissive, but he's very benevolent. He's very kind. He nurtures his wife. He respects his wife, but they've got that dynamic where he's the, king of the roost, and she's like, he's in charge. So they've agreed to that relationship, but she's also getting a lot from him. It's not an abusive relationship. It's not like he's some, Saudi, somebody in the Middle Eastern, abusing their, and I don't even know that to be a fact. I don't know why I even said that, but I'm saying, you think of those relationships where the women are diminished.
Right.
No,
right.
That's not at all. It's a loving, positive, fulfilling relationship, but that little dynamic, they've agreed to, he's going to be the boss. I go, all right. If everybody's happy and nobody's feeling that they're being abused, then that's fine. Please continue.
Yeah.
And they've got a very nice family. They've got a nice, it wouldn't be a dynamic I'd be interested in.
Right.
But it's the religious canon. And I'm just saying that if you get a religious guy, he may want to steer in that direction. I think that clearly, when a husband cheats on his wife, you can't spin that as her fault. That's ridiculous.
Well, and you know what? The church we were in, it turned out to be a problem because it was very one-sided. And it turned out later, one of the elders at our church had a separate family in another state. Another elder was doing cocaine. It was a very broken system, but we learned all these things later.
These men with power, they're out of control. I'm sorry to say. I've seen guys with a little bit of power when I worked at Home Shopping. I mean, guys with a tiny bit of power, and they were nuts. Imagine a man who stands in front of a congregation of 300, 5,000, whatever stadiums. Where do you think his brain is? Where do you think his ego is? Where do you think his wiener is? Yes. It's out of control. It is. It's the rare person. It's maybe Billy Graham, something like that. Somebody who's really got it together. Yeah. I mean, you hear stories about Gandhi was out of control.
Yes. So that was my worst therapy ever.
There we go. And I'll tip her. There you go. I found the tutor from Home Shopping. And I'll give you a toot. All right. So
let's hear yours. What have you got?
One. I'm just gonna pick one.
Okay.
We'll circle back to the men thing if we have time. But if somebody told you 30 years ago, all right?
Yes.
That gambling online in the United States would be legal today, that marijuana would be legal today, that gay marriage would be legal today, that we've seen pretty much a confirmation of UFOs.
Yes.
I mean, they've seen pictures now of UFOs clear as day, like, yeah, we don't really know what that is, and that's a pretty good picture of what's going on. That thing's going zipping and zapping in ways that we do not think that physics can allow.
Yes.
And following extending that train of thought, what might be the next domino to fall? Will it be legalize prostitution? Will it be like Mexico, prescription drugs without a prescription? You want to go get your, you know,
Hmm.
whatever, and you just go ahead and go get it.
Right.
So what do you think? Do you think if somebody told you 20 years ago all those things would be legal, all those things would be accepted in our society? Marijuana, gay marriage, UFOs, online gambling. I mean, those are pretty big issues when I was growing up that we're not going there
Right.
anytime soon.
No, I wouldn't have believed any of them. And 20 years ago, I was in such a more narrow headspace. I wouldn't have had the capability to believe them. Now, I feel like when you said all those things, legalize prostitution, yeah, I actually think that's a really good idea. I think there's a lot of things that I would have, UFOs, bring it. That would be fantastic. I would love that.
I'm surprised that people didn't have more of a reaction. I mean, it's like, well, we haven't seen a person, but we've seen the machines, right?
I've talked to my friends about this. Why wasn't this more of a shocking?
Well, it was kind of released. If you think about it, if you remember this, it was released at the, I think in the beginning of January, end of December. We were focused on COVID, and we're focused on we were worried about other things. And they must have said, well, this is a great time to release this stuff.
Yeah, there's a new thing on Netflix I watched the other day. I'm way into extraterrestrials and UFOs and stuff. I think it's fascinating. And so there's a new thing on Netflix that talks about all the stuff that they have never been allowed to admit before in the 40s when they first started recognizing UFOs. And Edgar Mitchell, who's one of the astronauts, who is such a fascinating man. He wrote this great book called The Intention Experiment that I highly recommend. And it's all about energy and people and how your energy controls your environment. But this new UFO show on Netflix, watch it because it's all documented stuff. It's really fantastic.
That's crazy. I've always been interested. I don't know what the end game is. I mean, clearly, if somebody has the technology to zip around, they probably have the technology to, become our overlords. But
yeah,
are
I
they
think they
interested in that?
absolutely do. I think they do. And I think right now we're kind of the minions. We're not that important to them. We don't have that much power. So right now it sounds like they're mostly just trying to stop us from using nuclear power.
Yeah, I mean, do you ever watch Star Trek?
I have.
The Next Generation, those movies and
I have.
stuff. Well, that's interesting because they've got a whole movie about first contact. It's when we as a United States developed warp drive in the year 2085. That's when that's when they landed and introduced themselves. Okay, these guys are developing technology. Now we'll stop over and say, hey, here's the deal. Welcome to this exclusive group of beings that have understood this and figured out this technology, this physics.
Yeah. No, I'm super excited. I remember as a kid watching the Jetsons thinking, I could live like that. That's cool. I would like to do that.
So, and then online gambling, that became like a yawn when that became legal. I mean, it was illegal for so long and just, gambling, you can't open a casino, you got to have an Indian reservation, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, quietly, you can gamble on baseball, basketball, football. You could do slots, anything you want online. It's all legal now. Very quietly, that became legal.
Wonder why that? Why do you think that was? Because they just didn't want to fuss about it?
Well, they don't want a lot of pushback. The government saw that there's money here because anytime you're spending money on this crap, there's always, taxes involved. So somebody showed some senator, here's senator, here's how much we can make on this thing. And here's, and how do I contribute to your campaign?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they pushed it through. I mean, sports betting online, legal.
Yeah.
And then I don't know that I was ever anti-gay marriage. I was always a little bit confused. I don't think I knew any gay people. I didn't know that I knew gay people. I didn't really have an opinion.
Yeah.
I find out later that my uncle was a transvestite.
Oh.
It's very interesting. I mean, he was tortured by it. He ended up essentially he did kill himself. I don't know if it was over that issue, but it was hard. He was in a union with a bunch of burly men, and that just didn't fly with those boys. That's for shit sure. It's very sad.
Isn't that a shame when you go back and you look about how people have been treated based on the fact that they love somebody.
I know. It's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad that people are even triggered by that. Even today, you can't,
Yeah,
it's not a
absolutely.
given.
No,
There's an argument.
no,
Do
you're
you ever,
absolutely
do
right.
you ever go to Mexico and buy just prescription drugs?
I haven't yet, but it doesn't mean I wouldn't.
I mean, if you just stroll in and buy antibiotics, they'll sell you that. That's fine.
I mean, that's what it appears that you can. You can just go get it, and
I don't
then
know what the limit is. I don't know if they'll sell you,
is there
LSD.
a limit though? Is there?
Well, there'd be a limit. Like I would say, hopefully there's a limit for you can't walk in and buy Oxycontin. I'll take a barrel of that and walk out. That would be horrible.
I don't know. I would think that you could though, right? Isn't that the whole point?
I do not know, ma'am.
Yeah, I
I
think
bought
that's
Viagra when I was down there. Oh yeah, let's have some fun.
and well, with the Viagra though, aren't there different kinds of Viagra though?
Well, back then, this is 10 years ago, maybe
Okay,
12 years ago. There was only one kind of Viagra. Viagra had the market cornered. You could get different strengths, 10 milligrams, 20 milligrams, things like that.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah. No, I
And I
think
still have a boner from way back then from that one Viagra.
as
All
you
my
should.
all my
The
pants have
world
been altered.
is ruled by boners, so you might as well get in on the
Get in
action.
on the action. All right, another topic, darling.
Okay. All right. Um okay, this is really interesting. Dead eyes.
You know what? I've always thought when somebody says that, I always think, well, isn't it really for me to decide? This is
Well,
interesting.
I think that we've all come across people and we felt like their mouth might be smiling and saying things, but their eyes maybe not so much. Have you ever come across that person where you feel like they have dead eyes because their smile doesn't match their eyes? No?
I saw a psychological picture one time. They compiled two pictures. They took a picture of a man frowning, right?
Yes.
And then they took a picture of him smiling, and then they superimposed the smile over the frowning eyes. And
Right.
they would look at that picture and they would be confused. They didn't know there was a disconnect. It was like, he looks happy, but his eyes don't look happy. It's not,
Right.
it's incongruent.
Well, the reason I brought this up is because I was, as I do, I was looking up other podcasts and
Oh, you cheating whore.
what they're based on. There is a podcast called Dead Eyes that's from this actor who once, and many actors know this, it's hard to get a good gig. You know the famous ones. You don't know the ones behind the scenes, the
Of
ones that are
course.
etching out a living, but the struggle of it, right? Constant auditioning and stuff. So this guy, Connor Ratcliffe, had an audition to be in Band of Brothers. It was very exciting. He got all the way up to the top. His final audition was with Tom Hanks, and he went in, and he's excited, right? He's spending his money. He's like, this Band of Brothers. He wasn't a major character, but enough.
I mean, that's the HBO Steven Spielberg thing, right? With Tom
Yes.
Hanks. Okay.
Yes. So he goes in. He doesn't get the gig. So he wants to know why. What happened? Tom Hanks didn't like him because he said he had dead eyes. Because I don't like the guy, he's got dead eyes. So because of that one comment that many years ago, he has used this throughout his career, and he now bases a podcast on it about what it's like to be in show business because of Mr. Tom Hanks said he had dead eyes. That's full circle and good for him.
Wow, that's got to be
Right?
brutal. It's got to be brutal. Uh-oh, what have I done?
You froze it and you've left me.
Consarn it.
You didn't really like the category dead eyes, did you? Oh, there it is. So
I touched the cord. I grazed it.
that's what you all say. So isn't that fantastic though, that one moment in his life, and we were talking about being on TV before we started this.
Yes.
Sometimes there's just one moment that happens to you, and it's usually the bad stuff.
Oh,
where
yeah.
it haunts you. It haunts you because you keep looking back at it and ruminating and trying to figure out why did this happen? Tom Hanks called him dead eyes, and he now has a show called that because he never could get over the fact that happened to him.
It's insane. You think it's good or it's bad that Hanks told him why, or he found out why?
He found out why. I don't think Hanks told him. It's
Right.
not always good to know.
No, because then
So
you, well, his ears were too big. It's like, the rest of your life, you're pulling your ears back. I
right.
was, I was watching, speaking of Netflix, I was watching this guy. It was like Magic for Humans. Have you seen that yet?
I love Magic for Humans. I love that guy.
He's great. He's great. I like him
Yes.
too. Did you see the one when he forces Tom Hanks as the answer? Allow
I
me
don't.
to allow me to
Yeah. Go.
so he's meeting people on the street, chats them up for a little bit, yada yada yada,
Uh
and then
huh.
he challenges them to think of a famous actor, and then they'll write down the name, and he'll write down the name, right?
Oh yes, yes,
Right,
yes,
and it's Tom Hanks.
yes.
And people are like, "Wow, Tom Hanks! How the hell did you get that? To figure that out?"
Yeah.
And it turns out that while he was chatting up the people, while he's chatting the people up, he's dropping all these Tom Hanks titles of movies that Tom Hanks was in. You know,
Yeah.
toy. He goes, well, you can't be, you can't go there without a toy. Stories tell you that, blah blah blah. So Toy Story. He calls somebody, drops in Wilson, and he talks about, yeah, I've been to Philadelphia. So everybody gets the 10 names, and of course he's priming them to say
Yeah.
Tom Hanks. It's amazing, and he did the same thing with the internet influencers. Did you see that?
I'm trying. It's been a while. It's been out for a little bit. It's been a while since
Oh
I've
yeah,
seen.
yeah. I'm way behind. I mean, I just started watching it yesterday, but it was crazy. So he brings in these three, 24-year-olds who
Yeah.
are, they've got hundreds of thousands of influencers there on YouTube, and so he chats them up, this, that, and the other thing, right? And then he gives them a variety of props, like 7 props and 5 different rooms, and each room's got a different object. And he challenges them to take all these props and take a bunch of pictures, hundreds of pictures. He doesn't care. Take all the
Right.
pictures you want, right? And then afterwards, they're like looking like, oh, he's an idiot. He doesn't know shit.
Right.
They're very dismissive towards him,
Right.
actually. And he goes, okay, I want you guys to pick one picture on your phone and then send it on Instagram. And then also whatever the title is. So pick a picture, put a
Okay.
title, send it on Instagram.
Okay.
Long story short, I'll cut to the end of it.
I didn't see this one.
This is crazy. Shall I tell the ending? I got to
Yeah.
tell the ending now.
Tell it.
They all send the same picture. They're in the same booth, they're doing the same thing, and they're using the exact same prop, and they use the exact same title on the picture. And then he reveals a picture that he had already, behind him, behind a curtain. He pulls it back. It's him with the same picture, same prop, same title, same area. It was insane. And it was because he prompted them with all these clues about swinging and ice cubes and
See?
watermelon. It was
Yeah.
absolutely mind blowing. And they were like freaking out, like, because they're used to being influencing other people to do their
Right.
bidding. And when they found out that they were being,
Yes.
toyed with, they had a hard time taking it all
Aren't
in.
they manipulated on so many levels that we don't even
Ah,
understand? It's so
insane.
ridiculous. You and I have talked about this with dating and stuff. We don't even understand the levels that were being manipulated. But when you watch it, did you? Because I think one of the first shows he did was when he convinced people that they were invisible. Did you see that
Oh, I
one?
love that. I didn't know that was him. I didn't know that was him when I saw that. I saw that like a separate thing 2 years ago. That
Yes,
was
it was so
insane.
good. Yes, so good. What an enjoyable. That's a very enjoyable thing to watch on
And
Netflix.
he's a very smart guy. You can tell he's highly disciplined. He's very smart. He could probably get cheat people out of a lot of money.
Absolutely. Yeah, I highly recommend that. Did you ever watch 100 Humans yet? Write it down. I really want you to watch 100 Humans. That's where they have humans of different ages, and they I want to talk to you about it. It's really fascinating on Netflix. It came out right, I think at the start of the pandemic, before things got really crazy. It's
Pandemic? What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
All right. So we're way over time, darling.
Oh no.
So let's hold those topics. By the way, we're going to have a famous author jumping in on Wednesday to join us for 5 minutes to talk about our book, my friend Darcy Greco.
Yeah.
And Friday, we've got our first viewer coming in. He'll be coming in for 5 minutes.
Nice.
Plus,
Plus,
that's my friend Chuck. And then plus next Monday,
yes.
Jay Adams, the guy that sits in a bathtub with 2 5-gallon
Yes.
buckets of ice.
Yes. Will he be in the ice during the show?
He may be in the ice during the show. Absolutely. He certainly has.
Excited.
I only need him for 5 minutes. But he said
so
he
excited.
I sent him the link about what when I referred to him, and he says, I said, I'd love to have you on the show. He says, absolutely. So he's coming on
I'm
the show.
so glad.
So think about people you want to come in the show. And if you, viewer, would like to be on the show, contact us and we'll see if we can work you in. Get in early before it gets to be 500 people deep. Now's the time to get on.
Do it now while we're young and fresh. We don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Do it now. Gosh, I'm thinking about some sort of, I'm having a movie flashback where somebody says, do it now. Do it now. And that's, telling people just don't wait. Do it now. What movie is that?
I have no idea. It's not ringing any bells.
Wow. I'm feeling very emotional about it. Like it's somebody giving advice from the future, before you waste your life, do it now.
Well,
I'll think about it.
It's a great way to end the show with the tip of the day.
Yes, do it now. Tip of the day. My name's Tom Wise.
I'm Melinda McKinsey.
And thanks for spending some time unpacking some shit. I had a hard time saying that in the past. Now it comes off easy. All right, we'll see you. I will say stop recording in 3, 2, 1.